by virtue of the authority conferred on me as Vice-Chancellor, I now constitute this Assembly a congregation of the University of Cape Town.
We will now sing the national anthem. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to invite Keenan Hendrickse, the SRC Vice President External Affairs, to read the University dedication.
At this time of celebration, we, the members of the University of Cape Town, reaffirm our mission to nurture rational and creative thought and free inquiry, to strive for excellence in teaching and research, to educate for life, and to address the challenges of our society. We undertake to advance these ideals in a spirit of freedom and responsibility, and through consultation and debate. We celebrate our founders, benefactors, and predecessors, those who have built the fabric and nourished the values of UCT. To those of you who will graduate today, we wish courage, wisdom, and purpose. To those who will leave the university to learn and work elsewhere, may you be sustained by those values which unite us here today and advance them in the world beyond, a love of truth and of learning, and of this, our university.
Please take your seats. So a ceremony like this has many highlights. You've just experienced one. Really would like to thank our College of Music. We're really proud of our music students and what our college produces. It's absolutely central to the life of, not that, to the life of what we do here at UCT. We produce great performers. So I'd like to please ask you to just join me in another round of applause. So Gaudiams and the national anthem were performed by singers from the UCT Opera School, and they were accompanied at the organ by Eben Wachenström. I'd like to know the name of the pianist, please. Oh, Koile Indestein. Thank you, Koile. Sorry, I have Francois Buerta's name on my program. And so the musical item, the Italian song, was performed by Hoyt Samang Lebier, and was accompanied, as you've just heard, by Koile Indestein. We now move to thank you very much, students. We now move to the formal welcome. Vice-Chancellor, members of Council, distinguished guests, members of the University Senate, members of staff, graduates, parents, friends, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Jamison Hall on the occasion of our graduation ceremony for the faculties of Humanities and Law. And a special word of welcome, of course, to our wonderful graduates, their parents, relatives and friends. This is the last of our 4 mid-year graduation ceremonies. Each of the last 3 ceremonies has been special in its own way. This one is special because we're celebrating the achievements of 2 faculties that have been at the heart of this great, great institution called the university, law and humanities. Amongst our graduates are the important lawyers of tomorrow. We also have amongst you here the emerging professionals from whom will come the country's psychologists, anthropologists, sociologists, political scientists, the artists, the musicians, the scholars of language, and not least of all the teachers. The country depends on people like them. But we today also celebrate the creativity of the university and honor 2 of our colleagues for the work that they have done. And so allow me, Vice-Chancellor, to move to this point in our ceremony. The first of the 2 awards is the Creative Works Award. Vice-Chancellor, the UCT Creative Works Award recognizes the production of important creative work by a member of the university. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the 2013 UCT Creative Works Award, Lucas Johannes van der Schijf, an associate professor in the Michaelis School of Fine Art. Vice-Chancellor, Johan van der Schijf's Community Punching Bags project was an artwork project undertaken in collaboration with art teachers and high school learners from Cape Town, and presented a satirical commentary on our obsession with racial classification and xenophobia, and aimed to show issues often not spoken about openly, such as those that deal with violence, the other, stereotyping, discrimination, racism, xenophobia and human rights, and shows how these can be addressed in a collaborative and creative way through the making of art. It consisted of 5 phases. Phase 1 for art teachers was a series of workshop sessions to develop cutout designs, collages. In phase 2, local leather artisans crafted the cutout designs collages into punching bags. Phases 3 and 4 replicated phases 1 and 2, but with the teachers passing their workshop skills to the children. Phase 5 was an exhibition of the drawings, paper cutouts, collages, and punch bag sculptures that emanated from the workshops. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to invite you to grant the 2013 Creative Works Award to Lucas Johannes van der Schijf. The second award we make today is called the UCT Book Award. Vice-Chancellor, the UCT Book Award is given for a book authored by a member of the university judged to be of scholarly or literary merit and the best of the year. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the UCT Book Award for 2013, Sonia Luertz, lecturer in Afrikaans in the School of Languages and Literatures. Vice-Chancellor, Circus Boere, that's the name of the book. Circus Boere tells the story based on astounding fact of a group of maimed and penniless veterans of the South African War, recruited in the aftermath of war by legendary circus owner Frank Phillis to participate in a bizarre military spectacle at the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri. Known as the Boer War Circus, it became one of the popular events at the fair. The characters include the flamboyant but feckless General Ben Viljoen, locked in bitter conflict with a mean-spirited, tight-fisted, and vainglorious General Piet Cronje. Cronje's forlorn black achterryer, Fenyang Mokenyana, sorry, let me say that correctly, Mokeyane, follows him everywhere, and is watched by a brooding, heartbroken Geronimo, who is being exhibited as a sideshow in the shadow of the Ferris wheel. The meticulously researched Circus Boere is a story about trauma, diaspora, showbiz, freakery, discrimination, loss, displacement, roller coasters, and sport. A wild bronco ride in history's rodeo. Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present for the Book Award for 2013, Sonia Luertz.
We now move to the part of the ceremony where we grant and confer degrees and certificates and diplomas. By the authority vested in me, I grant degrees and admit to the degrees, grant diplomas to those who are listed in the program as being in absentia. I will now confer the degrees and grant diplomas to those to be presented to me.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the Advanced Certificate in Education Management and Leadership Development, Shahida Ali. Edward Stanley Eugene Carlser. Charlton Gary DeMorney. Marlene Julius. Bulelwa Margaret Maki. Nomfundo Mashia. Owen Molakeng. Patience Lumka Olai. For the Dance Teachers Diploma, Nakabungo Virginia Swatboy. For the Diploma in Jazz Studies, Esperanza Delmain Swartz. For the Performers Diploma in Music, Brandon Peter Reiters.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the Postgraduate Diploma in Law, in International Law, Christelle Muzi Miami. In Labour Law, Enoch Hermanus. In tax law, Laura Kathleen Falk. Najima Khamaldin. Neil Johnson. Miriam Light. Kanyesile Makusazane Masango. Alistair Mackenzie McClellan. Richard John Mellon. Nosipo Zakiti Miyako. Rosemary Pendile Musia. Siyasanga Apongile Menuyalwa. Phumla Precious Nugubane. Muhammad Qasim Roda.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the degree of Bachelor of Laws, Lee Lauren Kane. Andrew Satira Quilo. Gareth Terence Howard. Carl Nathan Jason.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the degree of Bachelor of Arts, Natalie Annandale. Catherine Jane Barry. Ashley Claire Bryant. Bethany Tamsin Cairns. Ilham Karim. Anastasia Chantal Fortuyn. Zia Al-Haq Faisal Hafaji. Yukai Violet Kadzura. Tamsin Ann Knight. Mitchell Richard Friedrich Lurti. Sinead Joan Martin. Tanika Naidu. Priscilla Ungo Ntai. Tasnima Skeepers. In film and media production, Michelle Lynn October. For the degree of Bachelor of Social Science, Monique Anderson. Ellen Boriwondo. Yaradzai Tarero Grace Chakoya. Kelly Davids. Jean-Pierre Simon de Jong. Elme Ellis. Lindsay Ann Everingham. Shane Ryan Fansinger. With distinction in Indigenous African Languages and Literatures, Laura Ann Greer. Varisha Hattaram. Fatima Maud Yere. Sibisekhle Jakelo. Astrid Denise Joseph. Joseph Taboho Kholokwani. Kongyu Lu. Fiona Ann Mary MacDonald. Mitlali Magaka. Kundai Mafumo. Yevedzo Majude. Scott Ross McLean. Vanessa Nabukosi Mshlotwa. Chiedza Sandra Muzaredza. Takudzwa Moyambo. Atankosi John Umzuzu. Lechle Tando Nkosi. Siviyela Tina Nodada. Sharon Oloya. Nabila Pandi. Bilkis Parker. Joshua Sevitz. Lazola Otunwayo Sekupela. Nicola Jane Weber. Alia Pindila Zibani. Tafadzwa Sofilia Zingoni. For the degree of Bachelor of Arts Honours in African Studies, Penelope Lucy Jacobs. In Linguistics, First Class, Carolyn Maria Letang. First Class, Annika Rebecca van Bell. In Media Theory and Practice, Damon Sean Crawford. In political communication, Kim Scullard. In religious studies, first class, Joseph Allen Weinberg. For the degree of Bachelor of Social Science, Alia Pindili Zimbani. For the degree of Bachelor of Music Honours in Musicology, Lawanda Gogwana. For the degree of Bachelor of Social Science Honours in African Studies, Nomfunda Faith Lamini. In Archaeology, Jake Harding. Natalie Elizabeth Kendrick. In Criminal Justice, Sharifa Jacobs. In Environmental and Geographical Studies, Rivka Henriks. In Industrial Sociology, Tandeka Mona Lisa Ngube. In Religious Studies, first class, Khatija Hanif. Zulfa Schroeder. In Social Policy and Management, Anel Ulafir. For the degree of Master of Arts in Art Historical Studies, with distinction in the dissertation, Jessica Clara van der Hoek. In Classical Studies, with distinction, James Edward Sharp. In Clinical Psychology, Gillian Catherine Fowler. In Creative Writing, With distinction in the dissertation, Cherry Ann Gamelin. Paula Justine Murray. With distinction, Jonathan Roy Minster. With distinction, Susan Louise Perry. In drama, with distinction, Claire Iona Stopford. In film studies, with distinction, Jacques Wessel de Villiers. With distinction, Douglas Mulliken. In French language and literature, Viviane Kayumba. In historical studies, Nicholas Michiel Botha. With distinction, Leila Emden. In language, literature and modernity, with distinction, Daniela Cadiz Bedini. With distinction in the dissertation, Christine Maria Emmett. With distinction, Claire Marie Strombeck. In media theory and practice, Johanna Catherine van Velden Barry. With distinction in the dissertation, Runette Meyrung. With distinction, Marius Johannes van Straten. In political communication, Kanyesa Nyondya. In psychological research, with distinction, Brittany Everett Penhale. With distinction, Catherine Elizabeth O'Leary. With distinction in the dissertation, Marisa van Wyk. In social anthropology, with distinction, Elsemi Olwaga. In sociology, with distinction in the dissertation, Amy Wynne Weiss. In theatre and performance, with distinction in the dissertation, Lesoko Vuyokazi Siabi. For the degree of Master of Arts in Applied Linguistics and African Languages, given Jacques Shlongwani. For the degree of Master of Arts in Fine Art, with distinction, Josephine Mary Higgins. Timothy Gareth Leybrandt. For the degree of Master of Education in Applied Language and Literacy Studies, with distinction, Roseanne Reynolds. In Curriculum Studies, with distinction in the dissertation, Barry William Firth. In Educational Administration, Planning and Social... In Mathematics Education, Setsitso Matubako. For the degree of Master of Fine Art, with distinction, Peter Goodwin Jenks. With distinction, Bridget Ann Simons. With distinction, Darren van der Merwe. For the degree of Master of Library and Information Science, Selo Barefi. Dennis Sikazwe. For the degree of Master of Music, with distinction, Makey Giervers. In Composition, David Sidney Patrick. In Practical Work, performance, coursework and dissertation, with distinction in the dissertation, Michelle Esther Libber. With distinction in the dissertation, Colleen Joy Oxterby. For the degree of Master of Philosophy in African Studies, with distinction in the dissertation, Washumi Tina Dewu. In Development Studies, with distinction in the dissertation, Karen Elizabeth Erickson. With distinction in the dissertation, Maria Katarina Granvik. Hilary Joy Joseph. With distinction in the dissertation, Ferran Candice Pedro. Gina Sulprizio. In Justice and Transformation, Dion Wilhelm Snyman. In Philosophy, Politics and Economics, Claire Patricia Price. In Public Policy and Administration, Pamela Wangeki Kago. For the degree of Master of Philosophy in Education, in Adult Education, with distinction, Susan Muriel Gredley. In Information Communication Technologies, Erna Teresa Cartmell. Tito Oyana Akumu. In Science Education, with distinction, Nicole Noel Wallace. For the degree of Master of Social Science in Clinical Practice in Social Work, Bridget Joan Rawlins. In Industrial Sociology, Leo Mapira. In International Relations, with distinction in the dissertation, Holly McGurk. In organizational psychology, Candice Ann Gillum. Rujeko Bridget Ruvimbo Nazari. In philosophy, with distinction, Sean Leader. In psychology, Nicole Justine Phillips. In religious studies, Janine Esme Khalsa. In social anthropology, with distinction, Justin Dixon. With distinction, Jennifer Elizabeth Grant. Jennifer van Heerden. In social planning and administration, with distinction, Lauren Jane van Niekerk. In sociology, with distinction, Emma Frances Dates. Jean-Paul Solomon.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honor to present to you for the degree of Masters of Law in Biotechnology, Ethics and Law, with distinction, Beverly Alice Townsend. In commercial law, Amanu Shokunu Afademe. Ruan Werner Botha. Adrian Rose Brophy. Andrew Shakanika. Millicent Memory Gorogodo. Lusanda Guai. Shuapane Elia Letsi. Pierre Arthur Mallet Contos. Ernest Liatitima Mate. Jan Parmentier. Tamman Helen Sheen. Sipokazi Nolobabalo Zamayobe Setole. In Constitutional and Administrative Law, with distinction, Lauren Mannon Cohen. In Environmental Law, David Charles Bishop. In Human Rights Law, Kasongo Theodore Kamwimbi. In Intellectual Property Law, Sarah Helen Bold. Eda Wangiko Kai. Robin Kiran Richardson. In international law, Narcisse Kimbasa. Gofane Mulalezzi. In international trade law, Paul Reinhold Bader. Diamen Oromosele. Kahaki Judith Jere. Razikua Rotiesta Kavoi. In marine and environmental law, Yufan Ivan Muga. In public law, with distinction, Fatima Osman. In shipping law, Gary James Peter Beale. James Andrew Newdegate. Armand Senecal. In social justice, Calix Cavuro. In tax law, Abram Victor Dawson. Andrew Dale Goldsmith. Melissa Grissel. Ozma Bongiwe Mabanga. Eunice Nganga. For the degree of Master of Philosophy in Environmental Law, Sibile Precious Ntombela. In Labour Law, Stephen Charles. Mario Jacobs. In shipping law, Abisai Ashukuali Konstantinos. In social justice, Jessica Nicole Lumelin. Giselle Wharton. In tax law, Hugo Louis Brian Byrne de Rosny. Isaac Daniel Petrus Lowe.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in Commercial Law for a thesis concerned with enhancing the feasibility of regional economic integration in Africa and recommending regional and national initiatives to improve good governance and aid internationalization of the norms of economic integration among African states, Ashimizo Afidima Adiima. In commercial law, for a thesis which argues for combining elements of South African and Canadian jurisprudence to propose a more structured and focused test for review of the awards of CCMA arbitrators, Emma Megan Fergus. In commercial law, for a thesis that analyzes the methods used in South African domestic legislation and double taxation treaties for the elimination of international double taxation, and that reveals inconsistencies with the policy principles of equity and neutrality, Tracy Lee Gatuza.
Vice-Chancellor, I have the honour to present to you for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy in English Language and Literature for a thesis exploring how the poetry of Ruth Miller and the theory on the maternal function of literature reinterpret each other. It considers Miller's literary legacy, the critical literature describing her oeuvre, and issues of continuity and authority. Sarah Jane Warner. In gender studies, for a thesis which focuses on gender and institutional culture through exploring discourses of access and sexual harassment at and student perceptions of the University of Nairobi's institutional culture. Juliet Njeri Muazia. In historical studies, for a thesis which examines how a group doubly situated on the margins as Jewish and female helped to build the community of South African Jewry, and how some in particular contributed exceptionally to South African society in general. Veronica Sue Belling. In historical studies, for a thesis about the complex politics involved in the 1990s repatriation of liberation movement materials and the creation of a liberation struggle archive at the University of Fort Hare, Lucius Bavasili Maba. In historical studies, for a thesis that historically contextualizes representations of landscape in apartheid-era films made in the Cape, and that shows a changing sense of place, identity, and ideology through the apartheid period, Eustacia Jean Riley. In historical studies, for a thesis documenting a group of liberated Oromo children's journey from slavery in Ethiopia to freedom and education at the Eastern Cape's Lovedale Mission in 1890, and recommending a need to revise analyses of slaves' first and middle passage experiences. Sandra Carolyn Teresa Shell. In industrial sociology, for a thesis that examines the restructuring of work and employment in the clothing industry into value chains that avoid labour market regulation without reducing control over work by lead retailers. Shane David Godfrey. In psychology, for a thesis that utilizes an interpretive phenomenological analysis approach to examine the lived experience of women family caregivers of patients with advanced cancer in Nairobi. Jennifer Nyawira Gitaiga. In psychology, for a thesis which explores the factors and process that influence the formation of same-race friendships amongst first-year UCT students. The thesis finds that socioeconomic status, racial identity, ethnic identity, language and accent are important contributing factors. Ansem Buchler Zuma. In psychology, for a thesis which focuses on the meaning of AIDS and stories about how Xhosa men in 2 Western Cape Townships perceive and manage their risk of being infected with HIV, Nompumelelo Precious Zungu. In social anthropology, for a thesis that examines how ideas about universal human rights travel and are localized and with what effects. Using the concepts of entanglement, it demonstrates that human rights are always embedded in everyday contexts and practices. Shannon Kelly Moreira. In sociology, for a thesis that applies the contemporary social theory of Nicholas Luhmann to understand affirmative action policy debates concerning access to higher education in South Africa. Kendi Mekonnen Kefale. In sociology, for a thesis which focuses on how land has influenced changes in social relations in the rural areas of the former reserves from the time of colonial contact to 2011, with specific reference to Lupapazi, Eastern Cape. Fani Nkabai.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've had a marvelous ceremony celebrating with our graduates this huge achievement. Sometimes I'm asked whether in modern times, and particularly in modern South Africa, does it make sense to continue with this sort of pageantry, this fancy dress, where we all put on these ridiculous gowns and robes, and we march across and I tap each person on the head with a funny mortarboard, and they grimace as I touch them, and then this cape gets put over. And so we do wonder sometimes, should we just become a more modern place? Should we do away with some of this ceremony and pageantry? And we choose not to, because it's not just a question of history. It's not just that these gowns and robes and traditions reflect a tradition that has been going on for something like 1,000 years, since the medieval universities, particularly the medieval church from which these ceremonies, these rituals arise. There is a continuity which we want to preserve and recognize, but it's, I think, more because of what is symbolized by those robes and pageantry of old and what it continues to symbolize today. It symbolizes a sort of authority in society, an authority which is not dissimilar from the authority that judges have, and that's particularly appropriate in a graduation which includes the law faculty. Judges too wear robes and have that sort of ceremonial garb. It symbolizes an authority which the church has. And as we know, the church elders and deans and bishops and archbishops have many similar ceremonies and robes, because this is where ours are derived from. And to some extent also other sources of authority in society. And that authority is in particular, in the case of universities and university graduates, an authority based on knowledge, an authority based on science, on research. And society looks to you and to us as beacons of knowledge, as beacons of wisdom, who will progressively and incrementally ensure that we get closer and closer to the truth on one matter or another. So it's an important source of authority, and it symbolizes that. But if it only becomes an authority based on knowledge and facts and science, then it will be the poorer, and society will think less of us. What I hope that you graduates take away with you as you leave this university and go out into the world is the value system that UCT espouses, and which we hope all of you align yourselves with and have imbibed to some extent. A value system that is committed to social justice, to having an impact in the world, to righting wrongs, to recognizing them and taking responsibility for doing something about them. A value system that is concerned with injustice and demands of us a certain kind of activism, and imbues us with this authority which our gowns represent today, and which you will always carry with you when you say, I am a graduate or an alum of the University of Cape Town, an authority which is both an authority of knowledge and intellect and excellence, and also an authority based on values. That is my message to you today. I'm sure that you recognize that where you've got, and when you think back on this, when you reflect back on how you've got to this point today, most of you as postgraduates, you'll think back on many late nights of hard work, just meeting deadlines, sacrificing before exams to do nothing else but study, and hard work. I hope you'll also remember many good times at university, but I think you'll recognize also that you would not have got to this point in your lives without the support of your parents, of your friends, your loved ones, your spouses, in some cases your children, who have supported you over many years, financially, psychologically, emotionally. And so I invite you to show your appreciation and gratitude to them by standing up and making eye contact with your loved ones in the audience. Hold your scroll up high and shake it and shout your appreciation and your love to them. And I dare say that you also would recognize that to get to where you've got, this could not have been achieved without the support of your lecturers and professors who are represented on the stage, and I invite you to show your appreciation to them too. And I want to add my thanks to you, members of the faculty, members of the university, academics. The university occupies the esteemed position it does globally because of the brains we have here, because of the minds, the creativity, the dedication, and our graduates who are such great ambassadors for us are that because of the time that you've put into them. So I thank you too, and also the rest of the university, the technical staff, the professionals, the support staff, the registrar's office, who all contribute to making this a successful institution. Thank you to you all. So finally, let me urge you to celebrate, to go out and conquer the world, to be passionate, to be creative, to make a difference, because you are now University of Cape Town graduates. Congratulations.